What up, people? A couple of weeks ago, I made a video showcasing some hidden gems on the Nintendo Switch, and since I have a long list of games I feel are also hidden gems, I thought it would be a good idea to make this a series like I did for the 3DS. Like I said in the last video, while my channel primarily focuses on RPGs, I included other genres just to have a more diverse list of games. If you think I'm missing a game, it might be in my first video or an upcoming entry into the series. Leave it down in the comments anyway. But I don't want to waste any more of your time, so here are the 10 must-buy hidden gems on the Nintendo Switch, Part 2. First on the list we have Oxenfree. Released all the way back in 2016, this choice-based sci-fi adventure game was made by Night School Studio, a gaming company who ended up being acquired by Netflix in 2021. In the game, you'll be playing as Alex, a teenager visiting a local island with a group of her friends. After accidentally unleashing a paranormal force on the island, Alex and company must figure out what the force is and how to stop it. Unlike other choice-based games, Oxenfree has speech bubbles appear over Alex's head, giving the player a choice between 2 or 3 dialogue options, which allow the player to keep walking and still make choice decisions. Players can select dialogue options at any time during conversations. Choosing to wait for others to hear to finish, to interrupt, or to remain silent are all viable options. This game has multiple endings, and the choices you make will all have major impact on the story, and also on how your friends feel about you, and may even dictate if they live or die. So be careful. Oxenfree is typically on sale for like $2, or if you have a Netflix subscription, you can play it on mobile for free thanks to the studio acquisition I mentioned earlier. If you're in the mood for a story and character focused decision game that doesn't overstay its welcome, Oxenfree is definitely worth your time. Hopping in at number 9, we have Super One More Jump. This game is a handcrafted arcade platformer made by SMG Studio and was released in 2018. The core gameplay involves, you guessed it, jumping. You'll be jumping from platform to platform while avoiding any walls or terrain. If you do accidentally hit one of those, you die and immediately get sent back to the beginning. What starts out as very short and simple levels become increasingly difficult. Just to be clear, you will die when playing this. Like, a lot. But for me, that's kind of where the fun came in. I really got frustrated when I died. It just made me want to try again, and because of that, the game can be very addicting. The game has over 100 levels and also has features such as versus mode, 4-player co-op, and an endless mode where you'll keep playing random levels after every play. It also has a lot of custom themes and avatars, which leads to very fun and aesthetically pleasing visuals. Super One More Jump is the perfect pick up and play game, and whether you're a casual or more hardcore gamer, I promise this charming little game will have you hooked. Next, we have another pick up and play game with Tiny Lands. Relax and enjoy this puzzle game where the goal of the game is just to point out the differences between the two similar images. The two environments are 3D, so you can move and interact with them to discover all the differences. I remember when I was a kid and I used to love these I Spy books where you had to look for certain objects in these large detailed pictures. While not exactly the same, I got the same vibe from Tiny Lands as I did from those old books from my childhood. As someone who plays a decent amount of high action games like Borderlands, Final Fantasy, and also currently Street Fighter, I'm always on the lookout for games that let me just unwind and not have to worry about a boss fight, leveling up, getting the best gear, or fighting Ken in rank matches. Anyway, the game takes about 4 to 6 hours to get through and is constantly on sale for like $2 on the eShop, so not too much of a time or money investment. When it comes to gameplay, music, and visuals, Tiny Land is perfectly designed to allow you to take a breath and just enjoy yourself. So if that sounds like something you need, then this game will definitely deliver. Up next, we have Jenny LeClue. This point-and-click adventure game was initially released in 2019 and then was released on the Switch in August of the following year. The story follows Jenny, a brilliant young detective, as she tries to prove her mother's innocence, who's been accused of murder. She soon discovers the town of Arthurton is not what it seems, and unseen forces will stop at nothing to keep Jenny from the truth. She will need all her skills of deduction to find the real killer and clear her mother's name. The choices you make will have an impact on the game and story. During dialogue sessions, players can observe the person talking to spot clues as to whether they're lying or not. Locations that players explore include mines, graveyards, mountains, police stations, and libraries. Thanks to an update known as the Spoken Secrets Edition, LeClue comes with some quality of life updates including full voice acting and a new autoplay dialogue option so you can play the game like a movie. If you've seen any of my other videos, then you probably know that I'm a big fan of choice-based games. And for what Jenny LeClue offers in story, charm, and art style, I think it's a game many people should experience. Next, we have what might not be a hidden gem, but it's Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth Complete Edition. This bundle was released on Switch in 2019 and includes the two games, Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory. Like you've already might have guessed, the gameplay is what really makes this game great. The story might be good, but I don't remember much about it from what I played to tell you if it was good or bad. But anyway, after choosing your starting Digimon, you can then start fighting and obtaining more Digimon in the cyberspace dungeons as you progress along the story. In order to capture a Digimon, you have to continue to see them in the wild. Whenever they appear, you collect a percentage of data on them. After getting the data to 100%, you can then go hatch their egg and have them fight alongside you. The way Cyber Sleuth handles evolution is probably some of the best I've seen in any of the RPGs I've ever played. Each Digimon has multiple options when it comes to digivolving or de-digivolving, and in order for your Digimon to evolve, it has to meet certain stat requirements such as a certain level or a certain level in attack, defense, or speed, etc. And because each Digimon has about 3 or 4 options of evolutions, it can also de-digivolve to a previous monster. You can essentially get any Digimon in the game you want. The freedom this evolution system provides is really amazing, and with over 300 Digimon available, you have a lot of options to get the perfect team for your playstyle. This game is always on sale for under $20, and with over 100 hours of playtime between both games, you'll be hard pressed to find a better bang for your buck than this. I'm not 100% sure this is a hidden gem like I said earlier, but if you're someone who wants a turn-based monster collecting game that many fans will say is a better Pokemon game than Pokemon, then Cyber Sleuth Complete Edition should be the next addition to your Switch library. Kicking off the top 5, we have SteamWorld Quest. I've always been a big fan of the SteamWorld games, starting off with SteamWorld Heist and then the more popular SteamWorld Dig 2. I like how the games are always a different genre, and when I heard they were making a card-based game, I was very excited. SteamWorld Quest is a turn-based RPG and deck-building hybrid game, and is the 5th entry into the SteamWorld franchise. Gameplay involves exploring areas such as forests, caves, and towns looking for treasure where you'll eventually run into enemies to fight. Attacks are performed by collecting punch cards that the robots can use to execute programs. The game uses role-playing game elements with the exception of steam pressure representing mana. The player must build their own deck of attacks, and each character has their own set of cards to use, similar to Slay the Spire. SteamWorld Quest has generally positive reviews and currently has a 81 on Metacritic. It's only about 15 to 20 hours, so not too long, and the game is usually on sale for under $10 on the Switch. If you're a fan of games like Slay the Spire and want more RPG elements to your deck builder, then SteamWorld Quest will not disappoint. Next at number 4, we have the slightly polarizing Eastward. Eastward is an adventure game with role-playing elements set in a beautifully detailed, decaying world where society is starting to collapse as the human population shrinks to an all-time low. As the world around you falls to ruin, you play as a hard-working digger, John, who must guide a mysterious girl named Sam through dangerous, decaying cities inhabited by strange monsters and even stranger people. The gameplay focuses on action RPG gameplay mechanics, combining combat with puzzle solving and exploration. Players make use of 2 characters, each with different abilities and roles in the game. John, the main protagonist, is focused on offensive skills, can utilize a variety of weapons as well as bombs, and is capable of moving heavy objects. Sam, the second protagonist, makes use of support skills, can stun enemies and clear away hazardous fields with an energy ball and squeeze into small spaces. While both characters can help each other in overcoming enemies and dealing with puzzles, players will sometimes be required to use each character separately to make progress, such as clearing a way to an exit. Earlier, I said this game is polarizing, and that's because of the amount of story the game has compared to gameplay. At least that's how a lot of others feel. Many feel like Eastward is a little too narrative focused and doesn't really let you play the game very often. Now, with me being a big fan of story and having lots of dialogue, I personally don't mind, but if you're someone who doesn't want a lot of talking and cutscenes in your game, maybe skip this one. But putting that issue aside, Eastward gameplay is pretty fun, and the music and visuals really add to the game's charm. So if you don't mind a game that really focuses on the story it's trying to tell, Eastward really might surprise you. At number 3, we have Transistor. The game was released for the Switch in 2018 and was made by Supergiant Games, who are the makers of the not-so-hidden gem, Hades. Gameplay involves controlling the character Red as he travels through a series of locations, battling enemies known collectively as the Process, in both real-time combat and a frozen planet mode, which is the turn phase. The turn phase drains the action bar, which refills after a short delay. Until it is full again, Red cannot execute the turn phase or almost any other ability. Players can map out a series of movements and actions to take, which will consume a bit of the action bar each time, and then execute them instantaneously. Afterwards, Red must dodge enemies until she's able to go through the turn phase again. Red is awarded experience points after battles depending on the enemies defeated. The Transistor gains in power that's equivalent to the levels Red gains. The Transistor has the ability to absorb the essence of fallen victims of the Process, which allows Red to gain new abilities called Functions. Functions may be equipped as one of 4 unique techniques, or as an enhancement on another equipped technique. Transistor has been heavily praised for its music and art style, with fans saying the music specifically being the best of all the Supergiant games. The game has a very impressive 86 on Metacritic, and you can usually catch it on sale for $4 on the eShop. While made by the same developers, don't buy this game expecting it to be Hades. These are two completely different games, but if you're a big fan of action RPGs, Transistor could end up being your next favorite. Coming in at number 2, we have Death's Door. Released in 2021, Death's Door is an isometric adventure action RPG developed by Acid Nerve and published by Devolver Digital. The story is you taking on the role of a small crow who works as a reaper, collecting souls for the Reaping Commission headquarters, which is kind of an office-like bureaucratic afterlife. During the first mission of the game, you're sent to collect the soul of a monster who does not want to leave life willingly. After defeating it, a large old crow intervenes and steals the soul before telling him of a potential conspiracy regarding the disappearance of other crows. The old crow explains that the player must make their way through 3 dungeons in order to collect the giant souls needed to open Death's Door. You'll start with a sword and bow and arrow. Sword strikes string together into combos, and ammo for the bow is replenished by using the sword. 4 other weapons and 3 magic projectiles become available as the game progresses, but the basic attack mechanics remain. At the start, the player has 4 health points, with all damage causing 1 to be repleted. Health is recovered by collecting and planting seeds in pots that appear throughout the world. The seeds grow into plants that restore full health and eventually regrow. Doors to and from the afterlife areas exist as checkpoints throughout the game. When the player dies, they respawn at the nearest door without otherwise losing progress. Like other games in the genre, new items and abilities allow access to new areas and previously explored levels and solving puzzles with available tools as required to complete dungeons. The game uses souls as currency, collected by killing enemies and finding secret pickups, which can be used to upgrade basic abilities. While I usually don't like games specifically designed to be challenging, Death's Door never made me upset even when I would die. If I died, I knew it was my fault, and the boss or enemies I lost to never felt like an insurmountable task. Also, I just love the art style of the game. Even though graphics aren't a huge thing with me, I do like games that go out of their way to look good, and Death's Door definitely falls into that camp. Average playtime is about 9 hours or about 15 hours for you 100%ers, and the game can be scooped up for about $10 on the eShop. Even though I originally played this on Game Pass, I'll probably end up buying it because Death's Door is the perfect switch game for someone who wants a challenging action RPG with an amazing and charming art style. And finally at number 1, we have Katana Zero. The game is a 2D platform and hack and slash game presented from a side-scrolling perspective. As you control the assassin, rightfully named Subject Zero, your goal on every level is to kill all the enemies in the various rooms. The enemy gets hit once, they die. If you get hit once, you die, and then you have to start all over from the beginning of the first room. Zero can run, jump, wall kick, pick up and throw items, attack using his katana, and dodge. Zero's ability to slow down time and predict the future allows the player to activate a slow motion effect, enabling them to predict enemy movement easier, although use is limited by a meter that gradually refills. Outside of that, the game switches up gameplay here and there by including levels involving motorcycle chases, stealth missions, and an alternative player to control. The story is also really good in my opinion. The game does a great job of tackling dark and psychological topics while still finding ways to add humor when it's appropriate. Honestly, I can't really say too much more without spoiling anything, plus I think it'll be better to go in knowing as little as possible and figuring stuff out for yourself. It's pretty good though. But forget about gameplay and story, I want to talk about the soundtrack. The music in this game is nothing short of phenomenal. As someone who plays a lot of RPGs, specifically JRPGs, after a while I tend to put games on mute due to the repetitiveness of the music. But Katana Zero is probably one of the very few games where I listened to the soundtrack all the way until I saw the ending credits. Bro, I love the music so much I even bought the vinyl. It's a short game in theory with an average playtime of 5 hours, but I died so much that it took a lot longer. If you're someone who prefers physical, unfortunately I don't think there's one available at the moment, so it's going to cost between $8 to $15 digitally. I could talk more about how addicting the gameplay is or how this game almost single-handedly started my love for indie games, but I've talked way too long already. Simply put, when it comes to gameplay, story, and music, this game is definitely punching above its weight class, and while it is considered a hidden gem, there are very few games I've played that were a better overall package than Katana Zero. Alright, that's it for part 2. What hidden gems would you recommend for people on the Switch? Let me know in the comments. If you missed part 1 of this Nintendo Switch Hidden Gem series, click the link on the screen. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the channel. Later.